Okay, first of all, listeners, I'm so excited today that we have Ch-a Mosley on the podcast. Yes,
Yay!
thank you so much for joining So Mind-Boggling Journeys. I'm so excited to have you here. This is a little bit of a departure from what we usually do. Usually we talk to artists and different creatives about their journeys, and I actually stumbled upon you on Instagram. I know sometimes you mention TikTok, and I was like, oh, she's on TikTok too. But I stumbled upon you on Instagram and your story. I don't know how, because I was like, well, now I know that we do have one mutual friend in common. But I was like, oh, how did this pop up in my feed? And I literally think that it was divine intervention and timing, because I have so many friends that are new moms or moms, or moms to be, or women who want to be moms. And everyone is kind of, maybe not everybody, let me not say everybody, but a good majority of them are kind of going through their own difficulty, or they did before they had their children. And I wanted to talk to you because I loved how you spoke about you conceived naturally.
Yeah.
And I thought that was amazing. At 47, you conceived naturally at 47. And a lot of women that I know, they are having to do other methods. And even though that's normally, I think that's more the majority of the case,
Mm-hmm.
on the podcast, I want to, highlight those stories too. But on the podcast, we believe in dreams, magic, and miracles here.
Yes.
Story I felt was such a story of dream, magic, and miracles, and I wanted to hear it. I felt like we needed it. We needed that. Like, I know you said that a lot of women reach out to you and say that you've been like a source of hope for them.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for you to share with us your story on the podcast. So thank you again for being here. And yeah, can you go right into it? Just go right into how you ended up bringing little Naomi Earthside.
Yeah. It's such a interesting journey, and you nailed it correctly. This is a story of hope, and I like that because I get a lot of women asking me, "Oh, did I do IVF or what vitamins or what nutrition and la la la?" And I was like, I was not planning to have a baby. I was willing to have a baby. Having a baby was something that me and Lauren is her father's name. So it's like Lauren with a D at the end. We talked about it. It wasn't something that we gave no consideration to. We did give consideration to it, but we decided together that we were willing to have a baby if it happened, but we weren't going to go out of our way to make a baby come. Like that was a causative decision. And it was like in passing almost, like, you know what? Like maybe we were talking about someone else. I can't remember, but we decided on the spot, which is how a lot of miracles can maybe happen. It's not a lot of like think and figure. It's a very instant agreement. I was just like, I don't want to do IVF or anything like that. And he was like, yeah, no, me neither. And I was like, okay, good. And I think we went off to like cooking dinner.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't like a whole lot of talk and discussion. But let me rewind, because our conversation about having a baby was in bits and pieces over time. So here's the real talk. We were using protection, okay? And then all of a sudden, I noticed he was no longer reaching for the protection, and I was okay with that. But I was like, we need to have a conversation about what this could lead to. So I was like, honey, when you're doing what we're doing, you know that this could produce a baby, right? And I was
Yeah.
like, do you want to have a baby? And it was a pause, right? And then a little smirk came on his face like this. And he goes, yeah, I would be okay with that. And I'm like, okay, good. So that was like the very first, like, subtle, it was no pressure, no like long drawn out conversations. And I think that that's the beauty between he and I. When we agree on something, it does not take a whole lot of in-depth, long conversation. It was very instant.
Back and forth, not a bunch of back and forth.
It was just like, because I thought about it. I was like, I would like to have his baby. Like, I would be happy to have that happen. And he had a very instant result too, or instant reaction to it, right? So that was the first step, our first agreement that, yeah, that would be good. Then fast forward in time, we did have that conversation about how we would be interested in having a baby. And we were interested in it the lazy way. It would just have to want to be a part of our family and show up. And I know you had a question about this. And there's, to us, there's a spiritual aspect, right?
Yes.
Like, I think no matter if you're spiritual or if you're religious, you have a concept that there's your body, there's, and that then there's you, the spirit, and those are separate entities that work in concert with one another. And a baby is no different. Just because the baby can't talk yet or can't walk doesn't mean that there's no entity connected with it. So we decided there would have to be someone who wanted us, especially at our ages. Like, you know, we're not, we don't, we've given up our right to demand a baby. We felt now that we know that there are other women and men out there who are maybe in our age category and they are doing IVF. And that comment is not meant to sway what you are doing. This is our
Yeah.
attitude.
So please throw all the disclaimers out there
All
because
the disclaimers, because I also do understand it. It's like, if you really want to have a family and this is such a worthwhile thing to have, if you want to put in the extra work to make that happen, I understand it. For us, we didn't want to put in the extra work to make it happen. We wanted it to come just on its own if it were to come. And if it wasn't going to come, we understood that as well. So that is that's my disclaimer, because I definitely understand why people work to have a family. It's worth it.
Mhm. So the reason, so just to backtrack for the listeners. So one of the questions I asked Chia was, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was our good sis Oprah, our good auntie
Mm,
Oprah, who
mm-hmm,
said that children choose their parents.
mm,
And
mm.
I feel like she introduced that idea many, many moons ago about children choose their parents. Like before they are born earthside, they decide who, they want to be born to. Because I remember I was like, did I ask for Lavinia? That's my mama. No, I love my mom. She's great. But so
So
so that's why I was asking
who
too.
you were when you chose your mama may not be who you evolved to later.
I was like, what exactly was I choosing this tube for? But no, I love my mom. She's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was wondering if you felt the same way, if you felt that little Naomi chose you all. So that was what she was referring to about the spiritual component of it all.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And absolutely. Listen, to make the so at the time when I conceived, I was 46 and Lauren, he was 44. He's a little bit younger than me. I'm a little cougarish. So for a baby to work with those age demographics, because it does take two. A lot of times there's a lot of focus on the woman's health, but the man has to be healthy too. Right.
Right.
And so, but we're dealing with age, healthy or unhealthy. We're dealing with likelihoods of not being able to conceive. And so for her to make it go right and to come out like no issues, to come out with no issues, I say, that's her. That's her. And throughout my entire pregnancy, I always gave her credit, because here I am. I conceived at 46 and then birthed at 47. And I didn't have any complications, like not one. I never had high blood pressure.
Wow.
I never had edema, swelling. I didn't struggle with gestational diabetes. I didn't need bed rest. I didn't. And when I say like no swelling, I mean like nothing swole.
Wait a minute. You didn't have any swelling?
None. I kept waiting for it to show up. It's like when I say I had nothing,
I
I
thought that came with the factory settings. No?
okay, like and then I only gained about a little over 20 pounds. And in fact, in my last OB visits, the OB was like, "Are you eating?" Like it was kind of like that cautious, like, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, I eat." But I was like, little Naomi took only the space she needed. Like in my imagination, for all the years that I thought about being pregnant, even in my 20s, I imagined that I would be kind of the lady that put on some weight. Like I was gonna be eating cookies and cakes. We didn't crave that. We craved lots of beef, lots of dairy. And that was her craving, because my diet definitely changed and it went to what she wanted. So I was like, she's very sweet. She only took the space she needed. Like I was all belly, and she only really demanded what she needed to build herself. So I didn't get fat. I didn't have health issues. It was really amazing. So I would always tell people like we're a team. And we are, it's you and the baby. We're a team. So anyway, I do think she chose us.
And this was your first pregnancy. There weren't no miscarriages beforehand.
No, no, no. It's not my first pregnancy. I got pregnant at 45 and I did miscarry at
Oh,
6 weeks.
at 6 weeks. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so yeah, and that really did when I got pregnant with Naomi, it was really like with a kind of, I don't want to say side eye, but that's for lack of a better word. Like, okay, well, hesitancy is a word, not side eye, but
I was gonna ask, fear was the word, but hesitancy is what you would say.
hesitancy, apprehension. Like I won't put it all the way at fear, but it was a cousin to fear, like,
Mhm.
okay, we'll see. And it was funny because I was watching those milestones. Like I had an app where, week after week, it kind of tells you like milestones for your baby. So we hit 13 weeks and it was like risk of miscarriage decreases. I was like, okay, we made it. And
Yeah.
then, I had her 12-week ultrasound and I could see her little, like her whole body, like it shaped up. And I was like, oh, and there's a heartbeat and there's a this. Okay. Okay. And then I had what's called an anatomy scan where they look to see if she has any abnormalities that would indicate like Down syndrome or anything. Oh, we passed that. And then there was this blood test where they test for like 9,000 different things. And I was like, oh, she came out low risk for, I mean, we just passed milestone after milestone after milestone. And I was like, oh, we're actually doing this? And then when I got to the week where the app said she could survive if born, I can't remember if that's 23 weeks or 28 weeks. I want to say it was 23 weeks, where she could survive if born prematurely. And I was like, hot damn, baby, we made it.
You made it. Yes.
It brings tears to my eyes.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Oh my gosh. And here she is today, and she's thriving.
Girl, just chunky as she want to be. Look,
Look at
she,
oh
it's that little reflex when I sit her up, her little arms shoot up. But there she is.
my gosh.
She's drunk now. She just had some milk. She just
Yes.
had milk.
Wait,
Mhm.
so how old is she? Because she still looks fresh.
She's 6.5 weeks.
6.5.
7 weeks on Thursday. And
Yes.
yeah, here, let me see if I can tell me if this is okay, because she can be part of
Yes.
the interview now that she ate and
Yes.
she good.
Yes, this is perfect.
Okay,
Wait,
wait.
so how is it now that she's here and with like the feedings and the late nights and the early mornings and all the energy and the stamina that you actually have to have even right now? How
Hmm.
is that going for you? The postpartum part of it.
The postpartum part of it is, I almost feel unfair, when I communicate some of the things that I communicate, because so many things are going right. But I am not nearly as tired as I thought that I was going to be.
Okay, Chia. And now you're just showing off, Chia.
Right. That's what I'm like. I have not hit exhaustion with her. Now, I'm not going to say that I don't get tired. Like, for sure, there's tired. For sure, there's days where I'm like handing her off to her dad, like, Mama got to go lay down. Like, I can't do this anymore. Those
Yeah.
are those moments. But it's not nearly as bad as I thought that it was going to be. Now, I have the luxury that I get to stay at home with her. I don't have to get up and go to work. That's a luxury. I don't have other children. That's a luxury.
Are you working remotely or are you able to just focus on Naomi?
I just get to focus on Naomi. My story of this whole evolution of how I wasn't even working when I conceived is very interesting. Now I have to drink water while
Yes.
doing this because breastfeeding is draining and I'm very thirsty.
Yes, we believe in hydrating here on So Mind Boggling Journeys. I'm going to hydrate as well.
Okay, good. And but drooling is part of hydrating. Okay.
All of it.
So let me rewind this story a little bit here. So Lauren and I had plans of having our own insurance agency. I had quit my job, studied to get my license, which I did achieve. Shortly after that, I got a call from my cousin in California that my dad had been involved in a really bad car accident, and I had to fly home right away. So my dad was in an accident that left him paralyzed from the neck down. Now, my dad is somebody who many of you know. How old are you, Bettina? What's your
Let
age?
me tell you something.
Oh, you're an actress. We don't talk age. I'm just going to tell you who my dad is. And if you don't know who he is, you can Google him. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. And then I'm going to say something after this.
You're timeless. Okay. My dad is Roger E. Mosley, and he was famous for being TC, the helicopter pilot of Magnum PI. He was Goldie's brother in the Mac, just thin line between love and hate. Smith, he's got whatever. My dad is a OG Hollywood legend for Black actors and actresses. Okay. And so you're nodding your head, you know who he is.
Do you know that I just learned this last night? In doing research for our recording today,
Yeah.
okay, I was like, oh, let me see what else do I know about her outside of the baby, right? And that journey. And I was flabbergasted. Because typically I, talk to like artists in the business. And I was like, oh, wait, so there's even an artist connection here.
It's
And
not
so
wrong.
I have other questions now based on that. But I was going into this. I love that you segued right on into it, Chia. So
Yeah.
so continue, please, with your story about that.
Because it's an integral part of the journey in the magic. Okay. So my dad, he was 83 years old when he passed away. But when I say my dad was healthy as an ox, like he drove his big ass Lincoln Navigator, like, he would he was just wild. Like he still worked out at the gym. He still lifted weights.
Oh
My
my
dad has
God.
always been very involved in children's sports. Like he even coached me running track all through high school. Even when he was filming Magnum in Hawaii, he picked up a football team and was coaching a football team while doing Magnum. He always was working with children in athletics. So he was healthy. So he was coaching track. So that means and coaching hurdles. So he would be out there at track meets all weekend long, all week. Like my dad was hardy. So even though
You have good genes.
I have very,
You have very
very,
good genes.
yeah, I got a good gene pool and a good example of how to treat your body as well. So anyway, for my dad to get into this car accident, which left him paralyzed from the neck down, was devastating. Like my dad was for real the patriarch, the strong man, the still, I got one good hip left. I'll leave my last good ass kicking for my good, like he was still a force to be reckoned with. And so to see him laid out, not being able to move anything but like kind of his head side to side was devastating. And so I went to LA to be by his side. Now, granted, he could still talk, like his faculties and his mind was there, it's just his body, his spinal cord was compressed, so he couldn't move. Long story short, we did not expect him to pass away. All of our conversation was about him healing, right? And just what would it take? What could we expect for him as far as recovery? He went in for spinal decompression surgery, had a blood clot, cardiac arrested on the table, survived that even. But from that point forward, within the days after that event, his body just shut down. I'm just going to fast forward on the drama of all of that. And in fact, it was this time last year that I was in a hospital with him because he passed August 7th.
It's
So
a year ago. I saw that. Yes.
yeah, we're in the year anniversary, and he passed away. Now, fortunately, I wasn't working. So I had all of my attention to give to him in his final days. And it was the most, my dad and I, we had a tough relationship at times. He's very opinionated and very hard. Like he named me. Everybody thinks that my mom named me. But my dad named me. My name means the beginning and the dawn, and he named me, and I was just going to be perfect, and I was going to be this, and I was going to be that, and of course I wasn't perfect, and of course I didn't do everything that he thought that I should do, and we would have our ups and downs, and he was probably outside of myself my toughest critic and also my biggest supporter, right? But in this time of him being in a hospital, it was like I was his person. There was a respect level that my dad got for me. He just saw me in a new light of how I advocated for him because his hospital care wasn't the best the whole way through, which was devastating. And it was me. who really pushed and pushed and pushed to make sure he got the care that he deserved, and he saw that. And our peace that we had when he passed away was beautiful. It was just like I couldn't have asked for anything else. And his last words to me and to anybody before he got wheeled into surgery was, "You did good, kid." Like he really appreciated all my care. So
Oh, wow.
this is a story I don't tell.
Oh my gosh.
Um, anyway, my mom and I had to basically take him off all the supports that he was on because he was not going to recover, and the hospital called us to let us know. And we were prepared for that. But when we left the hospital, she and I kind of hang dog and sad and heavy. There was a couple pulling into the hospital. Let me pull myself together.
No, no, you're fine.
Okay. There was a couple pulling into the hospital, and the lady was pregnant. She's in a wheelchair, and you clearly see like she's in labor. And the husband is like frantic, like where does he park the car? And he's all like got the "my baby's coming" thing, right? So I'm watching this as my mom and I are walking out the hospital, and I believe this is the beginning of pulling her in, because I just looked at it and it was everything that I needed to see, because I said, wow, and this is the cycle of life. I was like, we're walking out one less, and they're going to leave with one more. And I smiled and I was like, it is just the cycle, Ch-a. So from that day, I set into planning his memorial, which was fabulous. We had such a good time. It was everything he wanted. My biggest pride is like, it was so good. My dad was so loved. Even Beyonce's mama showed Tina came with her husband, and they danced and partied with us because we did it at his favorite joint, you know, in South Central LA. Just total party, like just total DJ, drinks, turn up. We celebrated. We had such a good time. And I did that, and then made arrangements to close out the house and bring my mom back here to Florida with me. She decided she wanted to be with me. I said, okay, good. And just happy to be home after all that drama, because I was gone. It took me a while, memorial hospital, memorial house, mama, medical, like it was a lot. So by the time I came home, I was just so relieved to be back home and so happy that I got the support that I got from Lauren while I was gone. And we conceived maybe the day I came back or the day after.
Wait, oh my gosh.
It was just like, happy to, hey, honey, I'm home. Yay. And weeks later, I'm like, where's my period?
Well, talk about the cycle of life just within your family.
Right. That's a story that on social media, it's very hard for me to kind of share and get it out right. I've also very much lived in my dad's shadow in some sort of a way, like, oh, this is Ch-a. You know who her daddy is? This is Ch-a. You know who her daddy is? So on social media, I don't talk about, like, if you look for it, if you scroll through my pages, you'll see, because before there was her, I was sharing what was happening with him on social media, largely because when he was in the hospital, I wasn't vocal about what was happening. So his friends were starting to put on social media, oh, Raj, this is happening. This was happening with Raj. And then one friend put what hospital he was at. I was like, oh, no, like, okay. But this is only happening because the family isn't communicating. So let me reel this back so his friends don't start in good faith, right? Like they're kind of
Yes.
trying to share what's happening, but putting too much information out there. So I was like, I have to reel this line back in and be the spokesperson for the family so people know what's happening with him while he was in the hospital. So you'll see on social media where I'm talking about he's in the hospital. Please pray. We lost him, blah, blah, blah. And I just did that because I realized that somebody needed to. He doesn't, his career wasn't such that he had a PR person anymore or anything. So I was like, I guess I'm it.
Oh my God. That must be so deep in the crates. Cause when I found you, I literally only saw the post about, your conception and leading up to your pregnancy and leading up to the birth.
Yeah, if
And
you
I
get
felt like I had gone down deep because, but clearly not deep enough because I love how that information came to me. So it's interesting hearing you say how you grew up in the shadow. I love that that was not my introduction to you, even though
mhm.
I'm in that world. Like, what are the odds of that?
Yeah, I mean, I had there's a whole nother podcast we could do of just simply growing up Black Hollywood and what that looked like. Because my life growing up definitely, especially for the era in which I came up, Daddy had a Rolls Royce. Like we was like black folks were rolling around in Rolls Royce. I mean, they are now, but like I had quite a life coming up. It was a lot of fun. I'm
Yeah.
nuanced.
Your nuance. Well, one thing I did want to ask you is with the writer's strike that's happening now, or sorry, the writers and the actors strike, right?
Hmm.
What I wanted to ask you was, because your dad was a part of Magnum PI, I wanted to ask you what those years were like post Magnum PI in terms of like, did you feel like your family had, the livelihood and the residuals coming in to take care of you? I wanted to know if you had any kind of, insight or any type of personal story to share about that in
Hmm.
light of where we are today with
Sure.
actors and writers fighting for residuals and their likeness and such. And especially now that there's like a reboot, there's a Magnum PI reboot. So how that, how you all felt about that and such.
Yeah. So growing up, there was definitely a certain lifestyle, but I want to say Magnum went off air. I
Like
was
588, it was 588.
yeah, I was like 9, 10 years old, first of all. Right. So that I was very, very young. Like I remember being just about a baby when I first saw my dad on the TV and being very confused about why his face was on the TV and being telling my mother, Dad, Daddy's in the TV. Daddy's in the TV. Like it was very, I was like, I don't like, how did he get in there? So I was young when Magnum wrapped up. So there was no immediate change to my lifestyle at that point.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Money's still good. He's still doing movies and other things. Like he kept working for a very long time. Probably wasn't until I went to college that you start to see like a real lull in his career. But at that point, now I'm at Georgia Tech. I'm in Atlanta. I'm living my best life. Like life at home becomes a distant thing. And in fact, after college, I don't return back to LA to live with my mom and dad. I stay in Atlanta. I get my own life going. Then I move after Atlanta to Las Vegas to get my master's degree. And I'm out there. Like once I left home at 17, I pretty much stayed away from home. And then my dad was able to live off residuals. He
Okay.
was able he was able to live off residuals, and until this day, like there's still residuals. Like my mom is the beneficiary of that, and I haven't seen like an issue with that. Obviously, as the years go on, Magnum isn't probably running as hot and heavy as it was in the 90s or whatever, but it's still running. And it's cute to see the residuals come in because it's like, oh, there was this episode of Starsky and Hutch. Oh, there's a thin line between love and hate. And, I get to really get an idea of my dad's career by seeing all the episodes that are listed on the residuals. So it's an insight into him and his career. And I respect that he worked so hard that in his passing, there's still income. Like I don't know. I just think it's cool, It's
Yes.
it's really cool.
And
And
for providing for you all and and taking care of you all from the afterlife.
from the afterlife, yeah,
And we have to give a shout out to Stephen Hill, who now plays the character that your dad played. So that's great. We have to give him a shout out.
we do have to give him a shout out, and we are in contact. And he was one of the ones who showed up for my dad's memorial. Like he really loved my dad and respected my dad and the time he got to spend with him. And he is a sweet, sweet soul. In fact, the day that I went into labor, I was in contact with Stephen Hill. If you look back in my feed, you'll see where I'm debating giving Stephen a beanie that my dad had. Right, it's been laying on my dresser, and I've been
The
trying to figure out what to do with it. I believe he wore it in the Mac. It's a piece of history, but I also know him from just wearing it as my dad. And I decided that I want to give it to Stephen. And that day that we made that decision, I went into labor, so I haven't mailed it to him yet, but I need to. And Stephen knows, like, he's like, take your time, whatever. I even put it to social media, like, should I give it to Stephen Hill? And people were like, no, save it for your granddaughter or keep it as a keepsake. And I'm going to tell you something. When you are as accomplished as my father, there is so many keepsakes. Like when I
Opinion.
was cleaning out the house, I was like, Dad, this is too many trophies.
Oh, wow. Yes.
So many trophies, so many acknowledgments. I mean, from the not even just in acting, but community involvement. Like my dad was really a humanitarian. So when people are like giving me grief over this one beanie, I'm like, Lord have mercy, child. You have not, I got enough keepsakes. And I was like, I think Stephen will do a great job keeping it alive. And I was like, let's see it on camera again. So I'm gonna be mailing that off to him now that I've put it here on video.
That is beautiful. So let me ask you, so what are you hoping to take from your dad and then impart to Naomi? Like, how do you want Naomi to know about, what do you want her to know about her grandfather and hopefully take from him and his legacy?
I think the biggest things that I want Naomi to take from his legacies are the things that I took from his legacy. And this is a very big deal for me. And I'm going to say, and I said this at his memorial service, the biggest thing, there's two things that my dad gave me that are the most important ever. The one thing that he gave me is don't do drugs. This was very much an anti-drug, anti-cigarette upbringing. And he made very, very sure that I was disinterested in drugs. And we live in a very drug-friendly culture right now. And I don't do drugs. I don't smoke weed. I don't chew gummies. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't whatever, like I work very hard to stay away from these things. And I think that that plays a role in my health in this age. The choices that we make coming up along the line can make a big deal when you're older. So that was one thing that I really appreciate about him is that, to really be healthy and to take care of myself. So that's from my dad. He raised me that way and I maintain that outlook and I intend to impart that to her to really keep her mind and her body healthy. The second thing about my dad was he was the one that taught me how to be a winner. When he was my track coach, he was training me to be a champion. It was never like, oh, let's get the fifth place trophy. He hated that. Kids that get trophies for participation. He was so not into be like having to placate everybody. He was very much into you work hard and you win. And I remember one day it was raining in California, which, it's not all that common, but I think it was like in an El Nino time. And I just got my hair done. So, my hair was like straight, laid, and I didn't have a perm. And it was raining and track practice was canceled. So I'm like, oh yeah, no practice. So he comes home and he's like, come on. And I'm like, where are we going? And he's like, practice. And I'm like, but it's raining. And he's like, so while everybody else is at home, this is where you win. These are the days where you win. And he had me out in the rain, girl, just
Yes. Oh my gosh. So let me ask you now, did you appreciate it then the way that you do now? Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, 'cause I was gonna say because, I have friends that, have very successful and very, hard driving, fathers, and maybe at the time they didn't see that as like, oh, he was teaching me how to be a winner. They took it as like, oh my gosh, like I'm like, trying to like keep up and I'm trying to
him.
show my, my worth and show, there's that piece of it. But it seems like, did you feel the same way then? And now that you're older, you see the benefit of it?
This is an appreciation now that I'm older.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Not to say that there weren't things that I did pick up from him at the time, like because he did make me a champion. Like I'll give you an example. So my name is spelled CH-A. So my name gets butchered. Cha-a, che, cha, ch, like people can't get it right. And so when I first started out running, my name would get mispronounced all the time. And here's Ch-a Mosley from blah high school in lane 7. And so I would complain to my dad, they always say my name wrong. They always say it wrong. And he was like, don't worry. He says, when you start winning, they'll say it right. And sure enough, when I started to become a first place contender, like he really trained me up nice. Here we have Ch-a Mosley, lane 5. Here's Ch-a Mosley, lane 4. The one to watch in this heat, Ch-a Mosley. And he was right. And so that was something I was like, wow, daddy, you were right. Like, so it is something like an acknowledgement you get for your hard work. You get acknowledged for who you are, and people respect you to the point of even being willing to learn how to pronounce your name correctly. It's the little details. And that was one that I did appreciate that at that time, I thought that was really cool that by winning, I was granted the respect of a correctly pronounced name.
Yeah.
So anyway, there were definitely wins along the way, and it was surely fun to get trophies and to win. And out of everybody in my entire life till this day, he was been the main one to push being a winner. He was like, whatever you do, do the best at it that you can do. He's like, whether it's brushing your teeth, running track, whatever it is, do your best. And he's been the only person in my entire life to insist upon that. He was never one for pushing mediocrity. And that's a legacy that I keep with me. I feel bad when I'm being mediocre at something. Even coming on with you today, I was like, well, I could pull I'm a new mom, but I'm like, well, let me put a little lipstick on my face. Well, you know what? You put the frizz down. Put the frizz down. And so as I talk to you, maybe that is also the success of my motherhood. It's an attitude that I have, and that is instilled in me with my dad to whatever you do, do it well. And, you don't have to be suffering or dramatic with it. Like, do your best to make it go right. And it's just an attitude, that he left me with. And I get it sometimes, like when I post, like, yeah, I recovered or my scar is healing. And, I get the comments, take your time, make sure you rest, give yourself grace. And all those things are true. But there's this Roger E. Mosley inside of me that says, get right and get right quick. Because I'll tell you, my dad, he had a back injury many, many years ago. He slipped his disc, and he was back on the ski slopes in 3 months because that's just his attitude. It's not like you push yourself. It's not like you hurt yourself. It's not like you become unreasonable with yourself, but you have an attitude about yourself that, yeah, I'm going to get back up and at him quick.
Right.
So that's
Wow. Okay, so with that, so
mm-hmm.
what is your like postpartum plan in terms of like, like are you walking and like what are you thinking? How are you looking at your postpartum recovery? And then also the fact that Naomi's gonna be a little toddler soon and you're gonna need to be running after her. Like, so how are you planning and preparing for that?
Fair enough. So the first thing for me was to recover from the C-section. That was the first step.
That is the most important.
Yeah, that because I've never had any surgery in my entire life. So of course the first one I have is having all my gut ripped through. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it big, right? So that's been the first step. And I feel like I'm about 90, I would say like 92% recovered from the C-section. Like there's little hints of like, But so that was the first step. So I've accomplished that, was to get well. Now the second step is to lose weight, which has largely happened with breastfeeding. So I've started walking with her, like baby walking with her as she gets heavier and heavier each week. Like she's literally like a little bowling ball. So carrying her, like I feel it in my legs, and it's a good workout. She gets her vitamin D, and Mama gets some steps in. So I walk about a quarter of a mile with her. So there's that, like just taking it easy. Like I'm not trying to strain myself, but I'm looking at my stomach and it feels like jello. And my legacy for my entire life has been Ch-a has a tiny waist. I have always been this small waist girl. So I don't have the small waist anymore. Like I look great for just having had a baby, and I acknowledge that.
You for self acknowledgement and self appreciation.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. Like I feel like I'm proud, like wow, like that you're doing good, right? Like I definitely acknowledge my wins along the way. So the next step will be, tightening up, right? Just getting the body right. And if I do that, that'll make me more fit for her. I don't know how to prepare myself for when she's on wheels. Just
And get ready. That's gonna be like that.
it's gonna be
Okay.
like that. And she is strong. Like she's got muscles. It's insane. insane. I was like, is she Roger to come back? Like, literally, I would watch her in the womb, like in the last weeks in the womb, like she's big and it's tight. And I could see her shuffling, like I could see her little body muscling from one side of the womb to the other. I said, she's going to be strong. And sure enough, like she literally has guns. So I don't know. Like I don't know if there's any preparation for it, and that's probably another part of my spirit is I don't worry myself about what's to come in the future. I just go in with the confidence that it's going to be all right and I'll figure it out.
Yes, and that you'll have everything that you need.
Yeah. The biggest thing I would say, I will say this though, we live in a 3-story townhome, which was great when it was just he and I. This was like the biggest, like, this is great. Like, we got this townhome, it's just the two of us. And like that, mom came and then we have a baby and we're like, we got to move. And I was like, and we need a 1-story because when she's running, I'm not trying to be chasing her up and down stairs or worried about her falling downstairs or picking her up, like stairs. So, one thing in preparation is moving.
Is moving.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're gonna have to confront that because 3-story townhouse with a toddler sounds horrible, if you ask me. And probably every other mother who's seeing this is like, girl, you need to move.
Well, okay, so another thing I want to ask you, what would you impart upon moms to be, women who want to be mothers, and current mothers? Like, what would you impart upon them?
I would say treat your journey like you would anything else. Name what it is that you're looking for because I feel like that's something successful that we did. We named how we wanted to conceive. It's just like any other goal in life. Like, don't be afraid to be particular about what you want because what you think you can achieve is the first thing. Take good care of yourself, like make decisions for your body, thinking into the future. I cannot impress upon that enough. I do think, again, that we live in a society that pushes choices that are not good for the long term. They may be good short term choices, but, look at how your body may be doing in the long term. So take good care of yourself, exercise, take your supplements, be in really good communication with your partner about what he wants and what you want, and make sure that you're aligned in that. Because I think, again, that was a very key part of us being able to conceive is that we were in alignment with how we wanted to do it, and be willing to experience anything. It could be that your time for conception has passed. That very well could be like nature. There is a clock. There is a clock. And I hate to see maybe women are like maybe beating themselves up for not being able to get it done and trying so hard that it becomes no longer fun. I did talk to a friend of mine about that. She's in her 40s and she's been trying to conceive, and she's just done everything possible to try to make a baby come. So much that sex with her partner is no longer enjoyable. It's like a task for the man, you know? And I say be wary of doing that to your conception journey because, again, in my belief, there is a being coming into your family, and it's like take a step back and look at what you're bringing a baby into, and is it a scene that a baby would want to come into? Mommy and daddy are stressed out over you arriving or not arriving, and it's got to come, and is that something that a person would want to come into? Because your baby is a person. It's a small person, but it's a person. So take a step back and look at your dynamic, your sexual dynamic with your partner and your baby conception dynamic. And has it gotten so stressful that it could be unappealing to come into? You know, those are, I
Wow.
think, those are my words. And again, my whole journey has just been, I think, a series of things done right. Good health, good fitness, making sure that I'm happy, talking out any emotional baggage that I may have accumulated in life and not bringing that forward with me. That's another thing. I don't carry baggage.
Wow. That's a big one. To get yourself right before bringing a child into your energy and your space, right?
That's right. Or even a man. Clean up the baggage from the last man before you go looking for the new one. Clean up your baggage about your daddy or your brother or your male cousin, anything that may be kind of hanging around you mentally like a little noose, constricting your freedom, you know? Take it, talk it out, seek church counsel, talk to your friends, just talk it out wherever is the safest place to do so, and make sure that you're mentally prepared for the next step in your life so that you can have all that you can have. So I don't know. I feel like these are all the things that I was never trying to conceive, but when I look back at all the steps that I took, I was set up for conception at a miraculous time in life.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And okay, and so we're going to end on this note. I saw that little baby Naomi has actually given you baby fever for another baby.
That was, see, everybody's missed the subheader to that. Header was,
I missed it. What did it say?
I were younger.
Oh, girl, that must have been in the ten font because I was like, oh my gosh, does she want to have another baby? Is she going to give it another go? I was
Literally.
like, is it a quasi announcement? Like, wait, I know it's too soon.
No. You know what? I think that this was divine. Just the whole cycle with my dad, his passing, watching the cycle of life in the hospital and everything. Like, I think it all ties into how well this has gone. Do I think that I should keep trying to have babies after the age of 47? Not really. It's, everything went so right that it was divine. It was absolutely divine. And I feel like asking to do it again is a bit, I call it testing the hands of God. And I
Yeah.
feel like this
Not
whole
one and done. One and done.
one and done, that she's healthy, I'm healthy, and it went as beautifully as it did. There are increased risk when you have babies older. Like, yes, it sucks to have to talk about it, but the doctors are not insane when they're warning us. It's not fun to listen to, but there is some statistical facts about having babies when you're older and what the outcome for your baby could be and what the outcome for you could be. And I escaped every last piece of it. So I like that. I
So
like
it's
that story.
it's like get out and dash, girl. Run for it.
I'm planning for it. I am, yeah,
Grab your baby and go.
that's right. That's right. Claim my little
You're not line up for the blessings. Okay, you got your blessing. Go.
like a thank you.
I think God has so many blessings. He is a plentiful God with
God
tons
is,
of. But
that's right.
yes,
Yeah, so my next goal that I ask for God is just to have a good girl, who makes good choices in life and grows up to be a healthy, beautiful, smart, and loving young lady. Like, that's the next blessing, because again, in this day and age, there's a lot of pitfalls out there, and I'm just hoping she navigates them well. So that's what I'm asking for God.
and
Yeah.
with you as her mother, I mean, I think that she's got a great head start for sure.
Oh, thank you. And she's got a good daddy too. Ooh, they got their own thing going on.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh my
Yeah.
well, thank you so much. You and beautiful Naomi. Thank y'all so much for coming onto the podcast. This has been great.
Yay. You're
It's been
famous, baby. You're famous,
inspiring.
girl. She's
And
like,
I love it because Naomi started off like, wait a minute, hold up, hold up, hold up.
she's like, I can't be bothered.
Right. And then she's been like, okay, y'all go ahead. And she's been out the whole time now.
Girl,
Oh my
this
goodness.
breast milk is the truth.
Yes, that liquid
She,
gold.
she got me thinking I should bottle it up and put it on the market. It's like, what is in it, baby? What is it?
Seriously. Well, thank you again so much. This has been so lovely. And thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for sharing your story and, giving a lot of moms and moms to be hope. And I just can't thank you enough. So
Thank you so much for reaching out to me. This has definitely become my new mission, because when I started posting on social media, I didn't think that I was going to be a story of inspiration. I started posting because I was scared and afraid. And so, to push myself out of my worries and apprehensions about the pregnancy, I said, well, I'm just going to go the other way and I'm just going to talk about it. And if something goes wrong and I don't go to full term, well, I'm sure I'll get support from the community. They'll understand. And that it's turned into inspiration and hope for so many women. I'm going to keep going, because I'm like, oh yeah, honey, if I can get pregnant at 40, miscarry at 45, and then conceive again at 46 and have a healthy baby and a healthy pregnancy, well, people need to hear this good news, because you don't hear about it from the medical profession. Like, this will be the last thing that I say to you about it. And that is, I liken pregnancy at this age to almost like being diagnosed with like a stage 4 cancer. You go to the doctor, you're like, well, has anybody survived it? Like, is there any successful story? Like, did anybody come out of this okay, or did they all die? Like, did anybody live? And that's a dramatic comparison, but it's almost like that you just want to hear, did one lady, do you know of any lady who did it successfully? And you don't get these stories out the medical office, whether they know about them or not. They're not really sharing. So I realized I was like, I have to tell my story that, hey, I did it. I conceived naturally, and I was healthy too, and I didn't have blood pressure, and my baby doesn't have any kind of chromosome issues or anything like that. We both, me, I survived. So here's your one, at least, that you can cling on to and know that it's possible.
Wow. So mind boggling.
It's so mind boggling. Girl, I agree. Every day I look at her, I was like, wow, I can't believe it. Some days I'm still crying. I look at her like, I had a baby. I have a baby. I have a baby. Look, everybody, look at her. She's like, we, mom, if you don't stop shaking me. I'm just excited about your baby.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And how beautiful this. It looks like she's about to wake up. How perfect.
Yeah, she's up. Okay, show everybody
She's
your face, girl.
she's awake.
I know my aunt was like, she's always sleeping. And I'm like, no, no, she wakes up.
Hi, Naomi. Thanks, Naomi. Ah!
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Naomi. We had a good old chat about you, girl.
We sure did. Thank you, baby, for cooperating. I appreciate that. You see what her onesie says? Hold on, can you see
Does it say Mommy Minnie?
it? Mommy's mini.
Mommy's Minnie. Oh.
She looked just
That
like
is
her daddy.
too adorable. Too
Okay.
adorable.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, honey, for being a
Thank
good girl.
thank you both.
Yes, very nice to meet you. Let's keep in touch, huh?
Yes, absolutely.